up the first
No.
time.
Was that
Oh, no.
1957 or earlier? Do you remember?
It could
I-
have been because we had
I
children
really don't
here,
remember
and
that.
we had kerosene lamps, and our first son was born in 47, and we
Yeah.
still had
So
kerosene
it might have been
lamps.
early 50s. something
Yeah,
like
it
Yes.
was a while because, our oldest son was a very small baby. He was only 6 pounds, but we came up in September, and he was born the end of July. And my mother and my aunt came with us, and we had to wash everything by hand, and that was before the days of diapers. I mean, of paper diapers. It was diapers, and we would wash the diapers by hand, and with light buckets of water, and then we'd dry them on the fireplace screen and over the railing up the stairs. But I never knew at the time, but my mother was taking care of the baby because I was doing the cooking and everything. But I found out that she would wear the diapers inside so the baby wouldn't have cold diapers. She would put them inside her clothes after they were dry. But she said, oh, I can't see putting ice cold. It was cold in September. And as our kids got older, we still came in September, and we've got pictures of our two boys in snowsuits falling off the pier because they couldn't stay away from the water. But it was a very couple of cold Septembers.
So getting back to the propane, Dad had not bothered to change the propane stove, and in our own homes we've had electric for as long as I can remember. Ever since we got into our own homes, we've been all electric, and the children were up here by themselves and decided that they were going to go swimming, but before they thought they'd put a roast in the oven, so they put the roast in and turned the oven on and went down to swim, and someone came up because they had forgot something, and the stove was still cold, so they thought, oh, you probably have to light it. So they took out a match, and that was the end of the propane stove. So we quickly switched to electric stove, and we've been non-gas ever since. Now gas is coming into the area, but not down on this part of the lake. So many people have switched to natural gas.
We had the outhouse in the back, which now we call our gas house, that you will see as you pull into our Circle Drive. We moved it. And it was, for an outhouse, it was very nice, but it was still an outhouse. And so you had to go there. And my mother and my aunt came up here with us, and one night she went out to go, and she opened the door and there was a bear. And she stayed in the outhouse till morning. She wouldn't come out. She was afraid, which I don't blame her. I don't think I would have come out either.
Stuck in the outhouse.
Yeah. But in those days, without the electric, you went to bed very early, and you got up early. And when I didn't want the kids to get up quite that early, because we had 5 under 8, I would put blankets on the windows upstairs to fool them a little bit. Yeah. And so the furniture in this home was the original Stickley Brothers furniture that was Bill's folks' original furniture. And they had a settee, I think they called them, and then a big rocking chair and a smaller one and a straight chair and a desk, and a dining room table here with 4 leaves, and the wood chairs and the end tables. And 6 years ago, we took out the living room furniture and took that down to Georgia. We had taken the table out and put it in our other home that we had built here, and then we took that from that home. And these chairs that are in here now were when we were first married. They're so old that they're modern again.
They look modern.
Yeah, no, they're very old,
Very
and our kids are not thrilled with them. But they're good because they can come in with wetsuits and sit on them. The other chairs, I was forever saying, don't sit on the wood chairs, the Stickley chairs. So from that standpoint, it was a good thing.
And there have been times when even the ownership of this property has come into question. During the Depression years, my mother and father, with 7 of us children to feed and clothe and house, and also most of the time at least one grandfather living with us, and we didn't have that big of a bungalow on the north side of Chicago. But my father at that time, he had come from Sweden at 17 and went into the carpenter program and apprentice program and worked for a Swedish contractor. And during the First World War, he had 2 children, and so he was building homes in Flint, Michigan for the war effort over there, workers in Detroit and that area. And during that time, he decided he wanted to go in for business for himself. So when the First War was over, he came back to Chicago and went into contracting business. And his brothers, or one uncle that owned the cabin on the other point of the big lake here, and 2 other uncles had a stone business, ornamental stone cutters, which my great-grandfather, or my grandfather also was a stone cutter, ornamental stone cutter in Sweden, and they had started there. But Dad was in the carpentry business, and they had a very good going stone business and nothing to put their extra money in. So they went in with Dad, and Dad made a corporation to build apartment buildings in Chicago's north side. Well, during that time, during the Depression time, they didn't have loans like we have today, although they're getting back almost as bad. But when you had the loan on those apartment buildings, that was fine, and they'd come due in 5 years or 6 years, whatever the term was. But then you just renew them, what everybody did. Well, there was no money to renew them, so they lost their apartment buildings. And along with that, when the bank takes it over, they don't take the former bills. So my dad was caught with coal bills for these buildings. And so this one coal man thought that he had heard Dad had a place on Presque Isle Lake. And so they were in court, and Dad said, I'm paying you every month. I'm still buying coal from you. I'm paying every month, and I'll continue and I'll pay off that debt, even though that really wasn't my responsibility for those other buildings. But the man heard he owed some lots on Presque Isle, so he sent his attorney up to check out the lots on Presque Isle Lake. Well, the attorney sat down in his car and he got to Milwaukee. And guess what? Gravel road from Milwaukee to Presque Isle Lake. Not only that, but when he got to the end of Presque Isle Lake, he had to walk 2 miles into the property through a cow path. And he made his way back as fast as he could to Chicago, and he said, you couldn't give that land away. You don't want any part of that. So the judge said, I think your best deal is just trust Mr. Peterson to pay you the best he can. And that's how it went, and that's how we still had the Presque Isle property.
Cool.
If one would know today what one would know then, we wouldn't have the property, evidently.
It's interesting, Bill's folks always had guest books, and everybody who came had a sign, not just their name, but something about what they did. And we thought that was such a neat idea, so we purchased this home in 1966. I mean, we had lived here, but it became ours. So we started our own guest book deal, and as you can see, we keep running out of guest books and starting new ones. And often the kids will come and they'll see, what we did that year, who we were with, and so that has been a very, very fun thing to have. We tried to find Bill's folks' original ones, and our son Ralph was going to copy it all, but it got lost and we were upset about that, but his sister had them and his sister died, and his sister's son said they can't find them. I can't imagine she threw them out. I think they were someplace and then they got thrown out.
It's a good history of it.
But it would have been a wonderful,
Right. When you first came up, Mary, and that first trip up here, by that, you had some paved roads for Milwaukee then, didn't
Yeah,
you? You
yeah.
had some paved roads. How long did it take you to come up
I
from
don't
Chicago?
remember.
Did you make it in one day?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. So
Yeah.
one long day, huh?
Yeah.
To come up.
Yeah,
I think
we
it was
didn't
12
40s.
hours.
Yeah, we didn't stay overnight or anything. Tell him about when Nell went home with the, when your grandmother died and went home with the food.
This,
Good stories.
the cabin here and the Presque Isle property has good times and it has its bad times as far as remembering. It was not too many years ago, my dad got up in the morning on July 5th. The whole family in 3 houses here were, 4 houses were here for the 4th of July celebration. And my folks had probably eaten more than what they would normally eat. And mother realized dad was up, and so she went to the kitchen, and he said he didn't feel good. He was going to take some Malax or something, and he took one swallow and sank to the floor. And when 911, when they came, of course it wasn't 911 then, but when paramedics came, he was gone. So that was a tough time. And then my brother wasn't up here, and they took him to Marshfield Hospital, and he died there. So Mary and I do have 4 lots up in the cemetery in Presque Isle. So we're part of the community in that respect. So that depends on where we are, what happens, and kids got a big bang on that. But you know, my folks, 7 children, turned into, when we had the reunion for my mother, was 105 the family was at that time, and there was 2 that were pregnant, one in California, one in Hawaii, that couldn't come, but just about everybody else came with their families, so that was a big group.
Our
And
Did you
then-
have it up
Up
here?
here?
Did you
Yes.
have it up here?
Our
Yes,
children had planned it, and it was a 3.5-day deal. And we had a big tent out in the parking lot, and we had outhouses because we didn't have enough septic for everybody. And between all the houses, we could sleep everybody. We had a boathouse in that had,
105 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and-
When was this?
Yeah.
When was this? Probably.
I know, you
well,
got
we've got everything
you
at
got the
home.
board on the thing, but
Bill's mother was 90, and that's why we had it. And all the food was, our kids prepared all the food. They had
they brought freezers, refrigerators.
cabinets, they set up
Grills,
the garage as a
everything.
kitchen, and we had a
Then-
program every night in the tent. They had a platform, and
The kids said they didn't care. The grandchildren said they'd sleep on the floor. They didn't care. They wanted to be here. But we went over to
Art
the
Laha's.
Bear Bar restaurant, and Art Laha loaned us about 20 or 30 of his cots. So
double
we had them
deckers.
all over, and our oldest son brought his camper up. Another one brought a motorhome up, and so we did
and we
pretty
had
well.
we had wonderful food.
Had a great time.
And everybody could plan what they wanted. We had water stuff going on like a camp.
Yeah,
One of our
3
daughters had
speedboats.
handwork for the kids in
3
the afternoon
speedboats for-
before supper. We had a piano out there, and we really had a